You're listening to the Jake Asman Show on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
We inch a little bit closer to Selection Sunday in the NCAA Tournament. A lot of interesting storylines to follow in college basketball, and to talk all things college basketball, we go out to our progressive guest line right now. We bring on a good friend to the show. He is our SportsMap Radio college basketball analyst, former NCAA men's basketball head coach. Pat Kennedy joins us now. Coach Kennedy, thanks for coming on the show. Hope all is well.
Hey, Jake. Yeah, things are great and starting to heat up, so it's an exciting time.
Absolutely. So last night, Gonzaga got its first real test all season. They're down at halftime, and they come all the way back to beat BYU 88-78. What'd you think of Gonzaga's performance, especially in that second half?
Well, I think it was good for them. You know, anytime you're riding on that crest and you're winning game in and game out, and as you guys know, just because of the nature of that conference, they go into a lot of their games 20, 22, 25-point favorites. So to be tested, to come out of the halftime, have to make the adjustments that they made. I mean, they've got really three great players, you know, one at the point guard position, one at the wing, and one in the post. And it's good that those guys had to figure out how to adjust accordingly. But they're still the odds-on team to beat. Give BYU credit. They certainly showed up very, very well. And so I think it was a good championship game for that conference in general.
They've now won 23 straight games by double digits, Coach. Do you think that could catch up with them in a tournament game? How does that play going forward now, entering the NCAA tournament undefeated?
Well, yes, it can. You know, you take, I think of like a team like a Texas Tech or West Virginia, you know, that they tend to be in games that are very close, you know, maybe 6, 7, 8 points at the most, a lot of times 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So the test will be when they get into a tournament game and they get into the final minutes, and now it's a basket for basket game. And you got to rely on your experience. Now, their experience is that they usually have a big cushion at that time. These other schools are used to playing in games where they don't have a big cushion, and every dribble, pass, shot matters everything. So it'll be interesting to watch if they get into the tight game late in the game.
They're now the fifth team to enter the NCAA tournament undefeated since seeding was introduced. Do you think this is clearly Mark Few's best team that he's had since he's been there?
Yeah, I think so. I think the freshman point guard, Suggs, makes a huge difference. He's as good as he was said to be, and he has really learned how to lead the team, and he's much more experienced. Some people look at him as a high draft choice. Corey Kibbert is the best shooter in college basketball. I mean, he's shooting like 58%, but at his size and his ability to shoot a jumper is really special. And Drew Timme can do everything as a post player. He can score inside, outside. He can pass the ball. He can guard away from the basket. He can guard on low post. He can block shots. So I've said since day one, the big difference for Gonzaga is that they've had two great players on a lot of different teams, but this is the first time I think they've really had three, pros on one team. And that's what it comes down to. There's three pros on this one Gonzaga team, and that's the difference for them.
Former NCAA men's basketball head coach Pat Kennedy with us here in his weekly spot. You look at the top teams in this year's tournament, Coach. Is it fair to say that it will be Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Michigan that will probably be the one seeds if the committee's making their selections right now?
Yeah, I can't see it being any different. All due respect to Iowa, Alabama, Houston, let's say, even going back to an Ohio State, had their strong run. I think it's clearly those four teams. It's probably the easiest top four to seed. I think the seeding is going to be pretty easy across the board, quite frankly. A few of the wild cards might be West Virginia, might be Florida State. You know, how good are they? The AP poll has Florida State at 15. The coaches poll has them up as high as 12 or 13. So, there's going to be a few wild cards, but I think the seeding is going to be relatively easy this year.
It's fascinating looking at the AP Top 10, Coach, and seeing two teams in the SEC in Alabama and Arkansas being there. What have you made of both those programs this year?
Well, they've just done, you got two new coaches there, and they both came with high credentials. Coach Oates came out of Buffalo, had done a great job out there. Everybody wanted him. I thought Alabama did a great job of getting him as their head coach. And of course, the coach at Arkansas had already been tested at Reno, had been an NBA level coach. So I pray, you got to take your head off to those two universities for making two really smart hires. Alabama's had some pretty good names that they brought in there, and they've not been able to turn the corner. But Coach Oates, I think, is going to have Alabama at the top or towards the top of that conference for many years to come.
Is the key for Alabama, hey, if they hit their threes, I mean, they're pretty tough to stop. They play such good defense, Coach. I mean, is that really the thing for them? If they just hit their shots, they're going to be as dangerous as any team here?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. When you look at stats, if you're a fan and you watch games, the three-point shot is absolutely unbelievably important. It's become more and more important as coaches have changed their style of offense. It's what we call 4 out, 1 in, a lot of pick and roll and pick and pop, and everyone's playing from the perimeter on in. It reflects pro basketball, just like we see in pro basketball with Steph Curry, playing from the outside in. Sometimes we used to play from the inside out, right? So same thing with Alabama. I mean, if they shoot the ball well from the perimeter, they're a very dangerous team. Now, there's two different things, though. There's some teams that take a lot of threes, and on certain nights, they make a lot of threes. There's other teams that shoot the three ball because they have guys who can shoot the three ball. They are good shooters. And you'd rather, be the latter. You'd rather be the team that actually has really good shooters. And I think in Alabama's case, they've got some kids that can really shoot the ball. And they score a little bit, across their lineup. So that's really important. They've got 5 guys averaging double digits. So they got guys who can shoot the basketball.
Coach, give me your take on Iowa. Obviously, we know about Garza likely being, the player of the year. Has been one of the best in college basketball for a long time. Are they too dependent on him, though? Does that translate to winning big games in the NCAA tournament?
That's a great question. I like Garza. I know everyone has talked about him as a potential automatic player of the year. I like the other youngster, Butler from Baylor myself, but I think that could become their shortcoming. I think that as teams give him some different schemes in the NCAA tournament, knowing it's a one-and-done type tournament, the double teams with rotating on the backside, if he has a bad game, can the other kids pick it up? Now, he's talented, big and strong. He can score in a lot of different ways. But if he happens to have a tough game, I think that could be something that could be a shortcoming for Iowa. Whereas if you take, like you just said, you look at Alabama, they got 5 guys averaging double digits. You look at a team like Gonzaga where they've got 3 kind of go-to guys. So I think that's a great point you bring up.
Pat Kennedy with us here, the 1992 ACC Coach of the Year, kind up with his time in his weekly spot. Oklahoma State coach, I'm curious, when you watch Cade Cunningham play, many people think he'll be the #1 pick in the draft. Are you as bullish on him as some seem to be as far as his game translating at the next level?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he's a great player. You got to give kudos to their coach. The job he's done without that youngster in the lineup to go to West Virginia and beat Bobby Huggins on the night where Hugs could have gotten his 900th win. They not only showed great grit in that game, they showed great coaching, great X's and O's, great control of the tempo of the game. That was a heavyweight fight, that game. So, Cunningham is the real deal. And I think conversely with him, his team is the real deal. I would not want to see Oklahoma State as a team that I draw in the NCAA tournament.
Let's talk about some teams on the bubble. It's crazy saying Duke and referencing them on the bubble line, but do they need to win the ACC to get in? They blew out Boston College yesterday, so it's a good start. But what is the future hold for Duke going forward down the stretch here, Coach?
Well, everybody listens to Joe Lunardi, with obviously the bracketology, and I like the fact that he has been honest, to say the least, but he's been right on. In other words, he's treating Duke in his analysis of the tournament just as he would evaluate Boise State. You know, he's got Boise State as one of the last four in. Now he's got Duke completely off the chart if you go to Joe Lunardi's bracketology. So I give him credit for being strong. It's hard to take Duke out of the tournament, right? You don't want to take Duke out of the tournament and then see Mike Krzyzewski in the hotel lobby. I'll tell you that. But so I give Joe credit. I mean, right now Duke's they're just not good enough. And Mike, I think Mike knows that. It's just he's had so many incredible teams over the years. Sooner or later, you're going to have one that just dips down, and this team has dipped down. It's just there's not many things about that team you can say that are really outstanding. They'll play hard. Mike Krzyzewski's teams will always play hard, but I just don't think they have the talent level to be playing up into the tournament right now.
Coach, it wouldn't be this time of year if we didn't have Syracuse right on that bubble line. I mean, I think Joe Lunardi even joked yesterday that, a couple of years ago I had them in the same spot. I said they weren't good enough, and they went to the Final Four. So this probably means that's happening again with Q's. What's your take on Syracuse? Do you think they are still capable of making a run here in the ACC tournament to get in?
Well, let me tell you something about Syracuse that the fans need to know. When they see Jim Boeheim on the sidelines, sometimes he looks like a choir boy, right? But let me tell you something. Nobody is more intensified and more competitive than Jim Boeheim. I don't know if he's 72 or 73, whatever his age is right now. The man can coach. He was a good player, maybe even better than a good player. But Jim is a fierce competitor. So he'll get his team fired up again in the ACC tournament. He knows a few wins could lock him into the NCAA tournament. So again, Syracuse is a dangerous team to play.
By the way, Boeheim, 76 years old, Coach. So he looks even better than probably most people think.
Yeah, no, Jim's a remarkable guy. He's really a sharp, intelligent man. He's a terrific coach, loves his kids. And people wonder, how do you stay at a school that long being that successful? Well, he's a perfect profile for that.
Absolutely. Pat Kennedy has been our guest here. He is the National Recruiting Director for BTB. BTB stands for Be the Beast. Check out bethebeast.com. Coach, always great to catch up. Looking forward to next week when you're going to help all of us fill out our brackets. That sound okay?
Yeah, that's when I stop right there.
Pat Kennedy with us in his weekly spot. Good stuff from Coach there, breaking down the NCAA tournament. We'll get to him, of course, next week and preview the bracket and go through all the different, possibilities that are when you talk about the NCAA tournament. So looking forward to that. We do know we're going to have an NCAA tournament, which feels nice to say, given what happened last year when we lost it due to the pandemic. More coming up. We'll take a quick break and wrap up the first hour of the show. This is the Jake Asman Show, and you're listening here on Sports